I'm 42 years old, married for 11 years, two kids, a mortgage, a job I worked my way into from the absolute bottom. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said my life wasn't perfect, but it was solid, stable, safe. My wife Laura and I met in our late 20s. We weren't fireworks people. We were slow burn people. Comfortable, familiar. I thought that meant strong. We argued about normal stuff: money, chores, parenting styles. Nothing that felt fatal. I work in corporate operations, mid-level management. Long hours, a lot of pressure. My boss, Mark, is charismatic, well-liked, and very good at making people feel important, including my wife. He met Laura at a company holiday party 3 years ago. She came because spouses were invited. They talked for maybe 10 minutes. I remember thinking nothing of it. Why would I? Laura is beautiful, but more than that, she's warm. People open up to her. She listens. I always loved that about her. Life felt predictable, boring in a safe way. I didn't know boring was about to become catastrophic. I didn't know I was standing at the edge of losing everything. And the worst part? Looking back, I can see the cracks. Clear as day. I just didn't want to see them. It started small. Laura began asking about my job more. Not just how was work, but details, what projects I was on, who was struggling, who had power, what Mark was like as a person. At first I felt proud, like she cared about my world. Then she started bringing Mark up casually. Mark seems stressed lately. Mark must be under so much pressure. Mark is actually really funny, you know? She'd only met him once. I shrugged it off. Then Mark started including me in more meetings, looping me into bigger projects. I felt seen, valued. At home, Laura suggested we host a small dinner for a few people from work. Mark and his wife were on the list. His wife didn't come. Sick, apparently. Mark stayed late. Laura refilled his wine multiple times. I noticed. I felt a twinge. I told myself I was being paranoid. After that night, Laura started dressing differently when I had work events. Nothing extreme, just more effort, new makeup, new dresses, lingerie that didn't seem meant for me. I told myself marriages go through phases. I told myself she was trying to feel confident. I told myself everything was fine. I was lying to myself. Laura started going on walks in the evenings. She'd take her phone, be gone for 40 minutes. When she came back, she'd be oddly energized, smiling, lighter. When I asked who she talked to, she'd say, "Just friends." "Which friends?" "You wouldn't know them." That answer sat wrong. Her phone became glued to her. She started turning it face down, locking it, taking it into the bathroom. I noticed, but I didn't confront her. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. At work, Mark became more intense. He'd ask about my marriage. "Everything good at home? How's Laura?" "Marriage is hard, huh?" It felt like concern. It felt like mentorship. Now it feels like reconnaissance. Laura and I started having less sex. Not zero, but mechanical, disconnected. I felt like I was sharing a bed with someone already halfway gone. One night I reached for her phone while mine was dead. She snapped, "Don't touch my stuff." She'd never spoken to me like that before. We stared at each other. She apologized, said she was stressed. I accepted it. I hate myself for how easily I accepted it. There's a moment when something inside you shifts. Not proof, not evidence, just certainty. It happened when I came home early one afternoon. Laura was in the kitchen on FaceTime. She didn't hear me come in. She was smiling. Not a polite smile, not a friendly smile, a soft, intimate smile. She said, "I miss you too." Then she saw me. She hung up instantly. Her face went pale. I asked who she was talking to. "A friend." "Which friend?" "You don't know her." I said nothing. I went upstairs. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. I felt cold. That night I barely slept. My mind ran through every memory of the past year, every change, every excuse, every moment I brushed off. I realized something terrifying. If she was cheating, I didn't want to know, because knowing meant my life would explode. So I stayed silent. Cowardice dressed up as patience. A week later, Laura left her iPad on the couch. Unlocked. She was in the shower. I wasn't planning to snoop, I swear I wasn't. Then a message notification popped up, from a name I recognized. Mark. My boss. The preview said, "I can't stop thinking about last night." My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the iPad. I opened the messages. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were months of texts, flirting, inside jokes, complaints about me, explicit photos, plans. I love you. I wish I was waking up next to you. We have to be careful. My stomach turned inside out. I felt like I was going to pass out. I scrolled. I saw references to sex, hotels, his office, my car, my house, our bed. I heard the shower turn off. I didn't even lock the iPad. I just placed it back. I walked into the garage. I sat in my car. I screamed, not words, just noise. Animal noise. My entire identity shattered in under 2 minutes. When Laura came to the garage, her hair was still wet. She saw my face and knew. I said, "How long?" She tried to play dumb. I said, "I saw the messages." She started crying immediately. Not soft crying. Ugly, gasping sobs. 6 months, she said. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of sleeping next to me after sleeping with him. I asked if she loved him. She hesitated. That pause will haunt me forever. "Yes," she whispered. I felt something break inside my chest. I asked if they were still seeing each other. She nodded. I asked why. She said she felt seen, that our marriage felt stagnant, that Mark understood her. I asked if she planned to leave me. She said she didn't know. Didn't know. I told her to leave. She packed a bag and went to her sister's. I stayed in the garage all night, drinking, staring at nothing, trying to figure out how my life turned into a nightmare without my permission. Going to work after that felt surreal. Mark greeted me like nothing happened. Smiled. Asked about a project deadline. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to expose everything. I wanted to burn the building down. Instead, I sat at my desk and pretended to function. 2 weeks later, Mark put me on a performance improvement plan. Out of nowhere. Suddenly my work was subpar. Suddenly my attitude was unprofessional. Suddenly mistakes I'd never made before were documented. I realized something horrifying. They were protecting themselves. If I got fired first, I'd look unstable, bitter, unreliable. If I tried to report the affair, it would look like retaliation. They were building a paper trail. Laura admitted they'd talked about worst-case scenarios. Mark had told her HR would side with him. He'd been at the company 20 years. I'd been there 7. I felt trapped, cornered, betrayed at home and hunted at work. I started having panic attacks, in bathroom stalls, in my car, at 3 a.m. My world was collapsing in synchronized fashion. Laura came back after a month. She said she ended things with Mark. She said she wanted to fix our marriage. She cried. She begged. She promised transparency. I wanted to believe her. Desperately. We tried counseling. She cried about her mistake. I cried about feeling disposable, but something felt off. She guarded her phone. She worked late sometimes. She still mentioned Mark's name at odd moments. I checked phone records. They were still texting, using a messaging app I didn't know about. When I confronted her, she said it was closure, then friendship, then complicated. I realized she wasn't choosing me. She was trying to keep both. I told her she had to choose. She said she felt pressured. That word, pressured. Like fidelity was an unreasonable demand. I moved into the guest room. We became strangers living under the same roof. The kids sensed something was wrong. They started asking questions. I started lying constantly. 3 months later, Laura told me she was pregnant. We hadn't slept together in almost 2 months. I did the math in my head. My hands went numb. I asked whose it was. She said she didn't know. That was a lie. I demanded a paternity test. She refused. She said I was being cruel. I laughed, a hollow, broken laugh. She finally admitted it was likely Mark's. Likely. I told her to get out. She said she had nowhere to go. I told her to go to Mark. She said he was married and couldn't take her in. That sentence alone destroyed whatever sympathy I had left. She was willing to destroy my life, but he wouldn't inconvenience his. She had chosen a man who wouldn't choose her, and I was supposed to be the backup plan. I filed for divorce the next day. Once Laura moved out, work got worse. Mark stopped pretending. My workload doubled. Deadlines became impossible. Mistakes were escalated. I was written up twice in 1 month. I contacted HR. I told them about the affair. They said they'd look into it. Nothing happened. 2 weeks later, I was terminated for performance issues. 7 years of good reviews erased. No severance, no apology. I suspected Mark had prepared everything, months in advance. Laura admitted Mark had warned her I might try something. He'd framed me as unstable, obsessive, vindictive. I felt like I'd been slowly poisoned by two people I trusted most. I lost my job, my marriage, my sense of reality, all within a year. I applied to dozens of positions. Some interviews went well, then they'd suddenly ghost me. I still don't know how much damage Mark did behind the scenes, but I know he didn't do nothing. There were nights I sat in my car with the engine running in the garage, not because I planned it, but because I wondered what it would feel like to stop, to rest. I never told anyone that I ate once a day. I lost 30 pounds. I stopped answering calls. My kids stayed with me on weekends. I smiled for them, then cried in the shower. Laura kept texting about finances, about logistics, about how hard her life was. I told her to stop. She said I was being cruel. Cruel. I blocked her. The baby was born. Mark didn't leave his wife. Laura became a single mother. She tried to tell me it proved he was using her. I didn't care. Some bridges don't deserve mourning. It's been 2 years. I found a lower paying job in a different industry, different city, fresh start. I rent a small apartment. I see my kids every other week. They know we're divorced. They don't know why. I still wake up some nights convinced I'm late for work at the old job. Then I remember. I still flinch when my phone buzzes. I don't trust easily. I don't date. The idea of intimacy feels exhausting. Sometimes I miss Laura. Not who she is, who I thought she was. That woman never existed. Grieving someone imaginary is a special kind of hell. I blame myself more than I should. For ignoring signs. For being emotionally lazy. For prioritizing work. For not fighting harder earlier. Therapists tell me the affair isn't my fault. I nod. Inside, I still feel defective. Like I wasn't enough. I fantasize about confronting Mark. About telling his wife. About exposing everything publicly. Then I imagine the legal mess, the emotional toll. And I stay quiet. Silence feels safer. Even when it tastes like poison. I lost faith in systems. HR corporate ethics. Marriage as a concept. I lost the belief that being a decent person guarantees decent outcomes. I lost the illusion of control. I gained anxiety, hypervigilance, a permanent knot in my stomach. I gained a strange clarity. People are capable of extraordinary cruelty when it benefits them. Love doesn't always protect. Sometimes it just blinds. I don't know what I'm hoping for. Validation, understanding, maybe just to put this somewhere outside my head. If you're reading this and ignoring red flags, please don't. If your partner guards their phone suddenly, if your boss knows too much about your personal life, if something feels wrong, listen. I didn't, and I paid for it with everything. I'm still standing. I function. I show up for my kids. But a part of me is permanently altered. Maybe that's adulthood. Maybe that's trauma. Maybe it's just life. All I know is this: I loved someone who helped destroy me, and I'm still learning how to live with that.